I just watched the last episode of season 2 of Marvel's Disney Plus's Loki, and I think it is fascinating, especially because of how it fits into 2023 for Marvel. Like, 2023 has been a very interesting year. Started with Quantumania, a movie that we very much didn't like, and the antagonist of that film, Kang, got beaten, and it kind of took the wind out of people's sails for this character, who is supposed to be the new Thanos of the universe, because he got beaten by, 4 or 5 guys who can all grow and shrink and aren't usually the heavy hitters of the universe. So not off to an incredible start. Then, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. One of the best movies I would say Marvel's ever produced. It was mature, it was beautiful, the action was lots of fun, had a lot to say, really tugged at your heartstrings, and felt like a really, really good finale for this trilogy. But Marvel couldn't really get that as a win either, because James Gunn, the guy that made the movie, he's leaving. So it's like, that doesn't really count. Even though they made a really, really, really good movie, that doesn't say anything about the future of the MCU. Then Secret Invasion, just a mess, boring, expensive, didn't really utilize its stars particularly well, and didn't do a good job of adapting any version of its source material. So Secret Invasion, huge miss. Probably, I don't know if this is true, but at the time it was one of the lowest. I would imagine is probably the lowest reviewed Marvel thing so far. It's got to be close, and that depends on if you count like Inhumans and some of the rest of that stuff. Then you got Loki, and this week the Marvels. I have not watched the Marvels yet. I'm seeing it tomorrow, so seems like there's a lot of different opinions out there. Some people love it, some people don't like it. It really depends, it seems like, on just kind of how much goodwill you're able to extend to this universe and these characters. If you already like them, you're gonna have a good time. If you already hate them, you're gonna have a bad time. If you don't like the MCU, you're gonna have a bad time, or you're gonna have a good time because you'll be able to, say a lot of negative things in the future. And if you really love the MCU, you'll probably have a good time, although maybe you'll be like, I wish this was a little bit tighter. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but Loki is the last thing. Now, I would think it was the last thing, except it does seem like that second season of What If is going to come out this year, maybe, which I'm super unclear on. Like, that doesn't feel like that's true because it's November. We haven't seen any trailers or promotion or anything like that, but I believe that is still what they've been saying. And then there's the X-Men 97 show. We don't know when that's coming out, but I would assume it's early next year. And then I Am Groot, which I didn't watch, but is a Marvel thing. But Loki had an interesting spot because it was a character people really like, a show that people really enjoyed the first season of. Some people didn't love the ending, although I really enjoyed it. And like, it was the only thing, it felt like, that you could say, like, if this is successful, that is a good thing for the MCU, because you have this character, these concepts like the TVA and time travel that will be built up in a positive way. We kind of get to restart Kang and now make him as formidable as we always kind of wanted him to be. And we get all these creatives, whoever works on Loki, the writers, the directors, those people can do Marvel stuff in the future, probably will, so that will be a good way to kind of build out the bench. I would say the first 5 episodes of Loki for me were super mixed. One I very much liked because I thought it was just a fun, we're back in it. Good to see these guys again, production design, everything, behind the scenes of this show is incredible. So good looking, Ki-Hei Kwan's in there, like just a fun cast. But even at the end of that, I'm like, I'm not even sure what the show is about. Episode 2, pretty much the same. I'm having fun, but also I'm like, what are we doing here? Episode 3, I'm kind of out of it. That's why I stopped doing reviews for this on a weekly basis. I just didn't have anything to say. I'd be like, I don't know, it's cool that they did a sword fight, and it seems like the thing that they want to get is important to get, and hopefully they don't not get it, because then something will explode or it won't. Sylvie doesn't seem to think it will or matter. So episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5, definitely 3 and 4 more than the other ones, it just felt so abstract. I never quite understood what the stakes were. I know this loom was important. We have to fix the loom, but why is the loom exploding now? Well, it's because we have too many timelines. If we make the loom bigger, everything will be fine. But if we don't, then it will explode and everything and all of time will die. And still, characters like Sylvie are like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, why? What's your angle here? Like, you just want everything to explode and die? Like, I was just very confused about that and about like her opposition to it. Because it kind of got at this question of like, wait, so will it explode? Will it destroy all the timelines? One of the timelines? And I didn't really love the character Victor Timely. I'm still not a humongous fan of this portrayal. I get what they're going for, and the stutter thing is like, it's a choice, and we've already seen him do like, Ramatut and Immortus and the Silver Centurion, or whatever that version of him is called in that post-credit scene. It's like Jonathan Majors has to do a lot of characters. This is going to turn into that scene in Split where like he's just cycling through characters and accents and they're all super broad, like things you would see in like a college improv show. But again, it was well made and the characters and actors in it were fun. So I didn't have a problem watching episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Loki. And by episode 5, I did kind of get a sense for what it was doing with this time slipping thing, you know, learning about what these people did. But I never quite felt like the themes and everything were really coming together. So it was all on episode 6, which not a great sign. Marvel does not do episode 6s particularly well, or just the last episode if your series is longer than that. But like shows that are doing really well, like WandaVision, tend to have a not so great season finale. Like it's just, you know, laser beams and fighting. Moon Knight, same thing, laser beams fighting. Miss Marvel, laser beams fighting. Although honestly, Miss Marvel had a finale that kind of worked. It was the middle stuff that wasn't perfect. But anyway, so this was troubling. I was confused about the stakes, the relationships, and that was what the finale was going to be. It would be about testing these characters, you know, learning more about the relationships, making difficult choices based on the stakes that I didn't understand. And I have to say, I am incredibly impressed with how good episode 6 was and how much it retroactively fixes some of the problems earlier in the series. One of my things in episode 5 was Loki kept trying to be like, listen, we got to fix the loom, we got to do it. And Sylvie would say like, you don't want to do it because you just want to have friends and you're lonely. And Loki never went, maybe that's true, but also if we don't destroy it, all of reality explodes. So I don't know, maybe let's get past the me parts of this and we just fix it. And then you can go about your business. Like, you even make me feel bad if you want while we're doing it, but just I think it makes sense that it'd be like if you're, you know, in like a burning building and someone's like, we gotta get out of here, and the other person's like, you just want to do that because you have tickets to the baseball game, and it's like, I don't know, maybe, but also I don't want the building to, you know, burn around us. So I do think that he was kind of bearing the lead there, and I'm glad that we did get that confrontation with Sylvie where it was very clear, like, this is what happens if the loom explodes and there are real consequences. And Sylvie was still like, I don't really care because of this philosophical issue. And I'm sure that was always there. I think the problem with me was how the loom kind of factored into all of it and the time stakes and stuff like that. But first of all, the Edge of Tomorrow, you know, Groundhog's Day stuff. Every so often there's a movie that does it where there's a bit where the character's like really going for it, right? There's that scene in Edge of Tomorrow when he's kind of trying things a bunch of times, or where he's doing that bit perfectly because you know he's done that 50 or 60 times before. And then there's like Happy Death Day where they're like experimenting and trying to figure out what's going on. Some of the times these montages are very like fun. Obviously Groundhog's Day is like the really famous one. And I don't know, I think that right there was enough to get me right back into this. It was a character who could time travel to any place and had a problem that he couldn't solve. And he really did try every single thing. He went back to this time, went back to this time, went back to this thing, learned all of math, went back to this thing, had tried this and told him to do this differently. He was doing kind of the Edge of Tomorrow stuff where he'd be like, don't trip. Also, make sure you pick up the thing. It's like, oh no, I like this a lot now. And like, I'm really having a great time. On top of that, like, again, as much as I didn't like Victor Timely, I think the He Who Remains stuff here was very interesting. And like this, you know, very, very, very standard trolley problem of like, you got to kill Sylvie to save the multiverse. And Loki, because of how much he cares about the people he loves and his friends and, you know, Sylvie specifically, he just will not do that. And he could have everything he wants, but he won't do it. And then, you know, that revelation and Loki kind of finding another way and then becoming whatever we're calling him now, the god of time, Loki who remains, whatever, and picking up the different branches and I guess like kind of maintaining them in a way that lets them exist, but also doesn't like let multiversal chaos. Like it's something that like would be very hard to do. You'd need like a machine to do it unless you're a god. And that's like, nah, well, he can do it. Getting that awesome costume, you know, the strands turning into Yggdrasil, like a very beautiful image just in general. I keep saying it, but this show has been shot so well. It is such a good looking show. This episode, so many tight close-ups, really, really like kind of uncomfortable, but that kind of like you're supposed to feel a little bit uncomfortable vibe, which I love. The color in this show is fantastic. The score, Natalie Holt, fantastic. Really, really like just 5 minutes of straight score at the end. And it felt like the kind of thing that if this show wasn't working, that would be exhausting. Right, like, oh, he thinks it's doing is really important and instead it's very stupid. But because of like how much I think partially this character has mattered for a while and we've seen him grow a lot, but even just during this series, like, I don't know, this idea that he has really tried everything and come to this conclusion is really fun. And like the idea that he is, you know, embracing chaos, because Loki's always been the god of a bunch of things, right? The god of trickery, the god of mischief, the god of chaos. So like that's what, you know, he ended up being here. It was a very good kind of melding of my idea, melding of your idea. I want to control things. I want to keep the universes alive, but also I want to do it in a way that preserves freedom and choice and everything. I don't know. I think it was like pretty much everything you could ask for. You know, Tom Hiddleston is really, really, really good in this. Owen Wilson's really, really, really good. Like that last conversation that was that first conversation they had in episode 1, like fantastic. And then, you know, just that character of like Mobius getting to get a little bit, you know, a bit more freedom and figuring out who he is. Like there were a lot of times during the season where like Sylvie would be like, Mobius, don't you even care who you are on the timeline? And he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, is that just where they're going with this guy? I mean, okay, but a little weird. And I think that all came together really beautifully, and the actors are just really, really, really solid. Didn't have strong feelings about Kang. I think the thing with like He Who Remains is he's always kind of been overacting as his whole deal. I don't know. I guess it's tough because that character is just so on that it's a little bit irritating. But I did think that his confrontation with Loki was very good, and I love this new TVA, because part of me was like, okay, so let's say they fix everything. What does the TVA do then? Because they don't prune people, they don't prune things. What is their, you know, goal? What is their purpose? Are they just gonna blow it up and leave it behind? And it's like, no, they're now some sort of like Kang focused force. They all just work to stop Kangs from showing up in the multiverse, and I think that's very smart. I like the nod to Ant-Man. I thought that was cute. I like that like there really weren't any theories. There wasn't any like mystery. It never felt like there was a big mystery besides the mystery of like how are they going to solve this problem, but there was no like who's secretly a Kang variant and who's secretly Loki and stuff like that. So I'm glad that didn't happen. And I just think like this show is so funny. It's really, really funny, really, really sharp editing, you know, decades, centuries, like bam, you know, title card. Centuries later, very funny. The bit where Loki gets Miss Minutes back on the team, but just kind of going, it's very sad what happened to you, but we need you right now. Like, very good. And yeah, it really is the perfect example of like what Marvel does really well. Characters we really like, actors playing these very charismatic characters, and like A-list actors, right? Like Owen Wilson, Tom Hiddleston, Jonathan Majors. Very, very good, like very talented performers. Playing these fun characters in a movie or show that takes itself just seriously enough that for a lot of its time, like you're having fun, you're enjoying this. Even if like the stakes are really high, it's very sad or scary or something, you're still having a good time, but they can always kind of shift gears just enough when it's important, slow things down, and then we're back and we're, you know, having a really, you know, emotional heart-to-heart moment or something like that. And yeah, I think the finale was like perfect. It was exactly what I need from the MCU right now. Like I said, haven't seen Marvels yet, so that might be the other end of that, like something that is just fun and enjoyable. But it was fun and enjoyable, and we have spent so much time with this character, seen him do so many different things. And this isn't even the character from Ragnarok and Infinity War, although we did see the events of those movies, so like he does kind of know what his arc would have been. But like, what other show or like universe gives this much development to a character like this? He was like the second lead of Thor. He was the villain in the Avengers movie, second lead of Thor 2, and like a very big role in that movie. And like, you know, people don't love Thor 2. I think everything Tom Hiddleston is doing in that really works. Then Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, he dies, he's back for this Loki show, and now this, like, we have spent so much time with this character. Tom Hiddleston knows this guy inside and out, and I guess what I think is so special about Loki and the MCU as like an idea, it's kind of like what like Mission Impossible used to be, where you would have one actor and the different director, person in charge of Mission Impossible would bring their style and their tone to the movie. So you would still have Ethan Hunt and the IMF team and everything, but you know, this one felt a little bit more J.J. Abramsy. This one felt a little more John Wooey. Like, that is a very fun thing you can do. Very rarely can you also do that within a continuity that exists, acknowledges itself, where the characters are able to grow. And I think that's why Guardians was so good, it felt so mature, is because like we saw these characters mature in real time. Like the first Thor movie, I believe, came out in 2011, which means it's been 12 years that Tom Hiddleston has been playing this character. Like it's incredible. And, you know, switching genres, kind of sometimes a sillier one, but also still always Loki. It's really cool. You know, I understand people that don't like a lot of things about the cinematic universe, don't like having to watch all the movies. I enjoy it, so I don't mind. But I don't know, it's something a little bit special about how much continuity it exists and how much it folds in on itself. But if you're doing something cool with it, it's like origami. You know, you can crumple this thing into a ball and have a continuity that is technically exists. But be very careful with it. You're able to do some cool things, have some characters say some cool things, see these arcs develop in really interesting ways. But I don't know, I really dug episode 6 of season 2 of Loki, and I think it retroactively made me enjoy the whole season. Like, I think there was definitely a point where I want to say it was Tim from Hello Future Me on Twitter. We were talking about the Marvels and like this problem with having to watch movies and shows and stuff like that. And he said something about Loki, and someone else said, "Oh, you got to watch, you know, Loki season 2. It's been fantastic." And I was like, I don't know. I liked season 1. I don't really enjoy season 2. I'll say now, like, I think season 2 retroactively is worth it. I think it's still a little confusing. It feels like there's like, you know, character arcs that don't quite make sense until the very end. But I do think like this is maybe the first Marvel show where the end is the best part. Like even season 1 of Loki, the middle is very fun and good. All that, you know, like Lamentus and all that, it's very entertaining. You know, the old man Loki. Now I will say I was a little bummed we never saw, you know, Kid Loki, Alligator Loki. I would like to see Kid Loki show up in something again that I may be, you know, making a video about very soon. But it didn't need to be Cameo Palooza either. That's the other thing. Like, people give Marvel a lot of shit for like, you know, cameos that they say are kind of fan servicey, jangly keys, whatever. But I don't know, I think they have more restraint than we give them credit for. And part of that is because like we know Thor cameo this season, which I think is good. They have separated those characters in a way that I think is meaningful. And we didn't need to see every character from season 1 of Loki. So yeah, season 2 overall, I think was a mixed bag until the end, where I think it really came together. And I'm really, you know, happy for Tom Hiddleston that if this is the last time you see this character, and probably won't be, but like, if we don't get a season 3 of Loki, this is a very strong note to end this character on. And it's why a lot of people say Loki's their favorite character in the MCU. I think it's because of this. I think it's a very strong performance, very fun characterization, and a character that's been able to grow over the course of 12 years. And we've seen so many things happen with them. And it's all felt very rewarding and organic. So, you know, hats off to the team. I was not expecting to love this episode as much as I did. I'm curious to see what other people think. You know, put it in the comments, give me your opinions. But yeah, having not seen the Marvel, so we'll see about that. But the ending of Loki gave me a very good feeling and a little bit more hope for the future of the MCU than I think I had a week ago. Not that every show has to like hold the entire weight of the cinematic universe on its back, but you know, if you have a couple misses in a row, it's nice to not just like get a hit, but have like a home run. And I think the last episode of season 2 of Loki felt like a home run to me.